Is the RTX 5070 Ti already a dead card, or is it the smartest high-end purchase you can make right now? I've spent the last few days testing this Blackwell monster across 15 games to see if it actually lives up to the hype, and more importantly, if you can even find one. Now, the 5070 Ti has had one of the weirdest lifespans of any card in recent memory. It launched in early 2025 at an MSRP of $749 US, effectively replacing the 4070 Ti Super by offering more raw power for slightly less money. It was the Goldilocks card of the Blackwell launch. Not quite the $1,200 price tag of the 5080, but significantly beefier than the base 5070. But here in early 2026, we've run into a massive controversy. Just last week, reports from Hardware Unboxed surfaced saying that ASUS explicitly told them that the 5070 Ti was end of life and would no longer be produced. NVIDIA immediately fired back, saying the card isn't discontinued and they are still shipping units. ASUS then backtracked, blaming incomplete information from a PR rep. The real story? A massive GDDR7 memory shortage is making these cards incredibly hard to produce, meaning that while they aren't officially dead, they are basically a ghost on store shelves right now. And as of the 23rd of January, both Micro Center and Zotac were caught increasing the cost of the cards they do have by over $200. You hate to see it. Before we move on, I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of this video, Goldenmate. If you've ever been mid-render or in the final circle of a match, you know that immediate gut feeling. And to combat that, I've recently added the Goldenmate 1000 watt UPS to my setup, and it's basically insurance for your hardware. Most people think a UPS is just for big offices, but if you're running a high-end gaming PC or a home server like I am, it's absolutely essential. This unit features an LIFE P04 battery. Unlike traditional lead-acid backups that die after 2 years, this is rated for over 5,000 cycles and a 10-year lifespan. It's a set-it-and-forget-it protection for all your devices. It comes equipped with 8 outlets and an intelligent LCD for real-time monitoring. And for the streamers, this keeps your PC and your router alive. So when the neighborhood goes dark, your stream stays up long enough for you to explain the situation to your chat, save your progress, and shut down properly instead of just vanishing mid-sentence. Whether you're a content creator or just a data hoarder, don't wait until a storm wipes your files to think about power delivery. Check the link in the video description to check out the Goldenmate UPS for yourself, and thanks to Goldenmate for sponsoring this video. Concerning the specs of the card, you're looking at 16 gigabytes of GDDR7 memory on a 256-bit bus, 8,960 CUDA cores, and boost clocks hitting around 2.45 gigahertz. Those specs paired with that huge amount of VRAM is exactly why this card is being billed as a 4K capable 1440p card. Now feature-wise, we are firmly in DLSS 4.5 territory these days. This is the big Blackwell exclusive. You've got multi-frame generation now, which can theoretically generate up to 5 frames for every one rendered, and moving up to 6 frames in the coming months. It sounds like black magic, and when it works, it makes path-traced games feel like they're running on a supercomputer. Just keep in mind that, like any frame gen tech, you still need a decent base frame rate for it to feel right. Using frame gen and 8K resolution ultra settings probably wouldn't be a great experience. Now in terms of raw performance, this card is a beast. At 1440p, it should basically max out every high refresh monitor on the market. But the real question is how it handles 4K. With 16 gigabytes of VRAM, we finally have enough breathing room to not worry about VRAM stutters in the newest titles, which was the biggest complaint with older 70 series cards like the 5070 or the 4070 Super. Now, the caveats. The main one is the price and availability I mentioned earlier. At $749, it's a great deal these days compared to the competition. Now at $1,100, which is what some sellers are asking right now, it's a much harder sell. Well, let's see what this chonker can actually do. We're testing 15 games today. We'll start at 1440p native to see the raw strength of the Blackwell architecture, then we'll move into 4K, but keep the native resolution. If you're looking for benchmarks that include things like DLSS or ray tracing, I recommend checking out my YouTube shorts, as I created a whole line of YouTube shorts showcasing those results recently. But for this video, we're going raw, baby. For the test bench, I'm using a high-end but realistic setup. It's the kind of balanced build you'd actually put a $750 GPU in. I'll throw the full specs on screen now for your reference, and we'll get right into the benchmarks. We're starting strong with God of War Ragnarok. This is a masterclass in optimization. At 1440p Ultra, we see 152 FPS average and a massive 120 FPS 1% lows. The game practically never stutters. Even at 4K Ultra settings, we hold a 95 FPS average with a 70 FPS 1% low. You're getting a high refresh experience at native 4K, which is the 5070 Ti at its best. Now let's look at the flip side. Black Myth Wukong. At 1440p high settings, we get 78 FPS with a 67 FPS 1% low. The gap here is small, which is good. It means it's consistent. But at 4K high, it's a struggle. 43 FPS average and 36 FPS lows. This is unplayable at native resolution. You absolutely need frame gen or DLSS here. Next is Battlefield 6. This game is surprisingly well optimized for the scale. At 1440p ultra settings, we see 138 FPS average with a very tight 92 FPS in the lows. That small gap indicates a super stable experience. At 4K ultra, it's still impressive. 84 FPS average and a 68 FPS 1% low. Staying above 60 FPS even in the worst moments makes this totally viable for 4K players. Then we have Cyberpunk 2077. At 1440p high settings, Night City runs beautifully at 120 FPS average, and the 1% lows are at 105, which is spectacular. This is incredibly stable performance. However, at 4K high settings, we average only 60 FPS, but the 1% lows sit at 54 FPS. It is strictly playable for sure, but you are living on the razor's edge. One heavy explosion and you're dipping into the 40s. Let's speed things up with F1 2024. At 1440p Ultra, we are hitting 213 FPS with 157 FPS lows. This is simulation perfection, insanely fast. At 4K Ultra, we still hold 160 FPS with 117 lows. This is one of the few titles where you can run native 4K and still max out a 144Hz monitor, and maybe even push your 240Hz monitors if you got the cash. Moving to Spiderman 2, this is kind of the reality check. At 1440p high settings, we get 114 FPS, but look at the 1% lows, only 64. That's almost half the average FPS. The traversal streaming is hitting the system hard. At 4K high settings, it gets rough, 57 FPS average with a 32 FPS 1% low. Now a 32 FPS dip is noticeable stutter. At 4K, this game really struggles without upscaling. Next up is the finals. At 1440p epic settings, we're seeing an average of 124 FPS, but look at that 1% low of 72. That is a fairly wide gap, likely due to the destruction physics hammering the CPU. Moving to 4K high, we get 98 FPS average, but a 48 FPS 1% low. And honestly, dipping that low in the stutters makes 4K feel a bit inconsistent for ranked play. Let's check out Resident Evil 4 Remake, a fantastically optimized game. 1440p Ultra gives us 188 FPS average and 147 FPS lows. It's almost too fast for a horror game. At 4K Ultra, we are still nearly hitting triple digits at 97 FPS average and 81 FPS lows. If you have a 4K display, this is the showcase game for it. Now for Expedition 33. This turn-based RPG is heavy. 1440p high gets us 77 FPS with a 60 FPS 1% low. It's perfectly serviceable. But at 4K medium settings, we drop to 55 FPS average and 45 FPS lows. So while you don't need Twitch reactions here, the menu navigation and camera panning definitely feel sluggish below 60. Let's move on to Fortnite. Unreal Engine 5 is always heavy, but this rig eats it alive. At 1440p epic settings, we hit 171 FPS average with an 82 FPS 1% low. Now that low is a bit deceptive. It's mostly traversal stutter, but the gameplay feels responsive. At 4K Epic, we are still nearly hitting triple digits at 97 FPS with a 63 FPS 1% low. You can max this game out and never have to worry. Then we have Space Marine 2. At 1440p ultra settings, we get 95 FPS, but check out those 1% lows, 82 FPS. That is incredibly tight, which is good. Despite the hundreds of people on screen, the performance is rock solid. At 4K high settings, we do average 63 FPS with 56 FPS lows, which is still tight. It stays totally playable, but you do lose that gritty, fast-paced feeling you get at 1440p, but honestly, I'd still probably play it in 4K. Next up is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. At 1440p high settings, we see 118 FPS average with a 72 FPS 1% lows. It's fluid and the combat feels punchy. At 4K high, we get 82 FPS average, but the lows do drop to 50 FPS. It isn't a deal breaker for a single player adventure, but you will feel that heaviness in busy scenes compared to the 1440p mode. Monster Hunter Wilds at 1440p high, we do see 85 FPS with lows at 55. Now that low is concerning. It means occasional stutters during big monster attacks, which could be devastating. At 4K medium settings, and remember, this is medium settings, We're only at 65 FPS average and 43 FPS lows. The game is incredibly demanding, that's all you can say, and 4K really pushes the card to its limit. So if you want to play it properly, you might have to use some upscaling or just lower the settings into oblivion. Let's check out Arc Raiders though. At 1440p epic settings, we're getting a solid 130 FPS average with 78 FPS 1% lows. The movement feels incredibly snappy here. At 4K epic settings, we do dip to 89 FPS averages with 65 FPS 1% lows. This is actually a great result for 4K. The fact that our lows stay above 60 means the game feels fluid even during intense extraction firefights. And finally, Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail. This game had a major graphical overhaul 2 years ago and released this great benchmarking tool that is heavy on particle effects and massive amounts of people and enemies. 1440p maximum settings, we are cruising at 158 FPS average with 115 FPS lows. It is buttery smooth. At 4K resolution with the max settings, we get 88 FPS average and 64 FPS lows. So even with the graphical update, the performance is totally solid, holding above 60 FPS even in crowded areas. So there are the numbers. On one hand, the RTX 5070 Ti is an absolute monster for 1440p. And frankly, it's the first 70 class card in a long time that doesn't feel like it's choking at 4K, thanks to that 16 gigabytes of GDDR7 VRAM. If you're a feature-first gamer who wants the best ray tracing and the black magic of DLSS 4.5, this is the clear winner. But we have to talk about the elephant in the room, the market. If you can find this card at its $749 MSRP, buy it immediately. It's arguably the best value in the Blackwell lineup, in my opinion. But if you're looking at these $1,100, $1,200, even $1,300 scalper prices on Newegg and Amazon, walk away. At that price, you're better off finding an RX 9070 XT. It's $200 less than the 5070 Ti MSRP, and you're getting pretty similar or maybe a little worse raw performance. And sure, you lose out on the top tier ray tracing and NVIDIA's Creative Suite, but in a year where RAM prices are quadrupling and GPUs are being rationed, saving that extra cash for a CPU upgrade or more storage instead is probably the smarter play for most of you. So my final take, the 5070 Ti is a legendary card caught in a terrible market. If you're building a high-end 1440p rig right now, it's the card you want. But the 9070 XT will probably be the card you actually buy. But I want to hear from you. Are you holding out for a 5070 Ti restock, or are the AMD savings just too good to ignore in 2026? Drop a comment below and let me know. And if you liked this video, consider becoming a member by hitting the join button below, or just hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to hit 100,000 subs by the end of the year, and if you could help, I would really appreciate it. If you want more info on other graphics cards, you can click one of the videos on screen now. My name's Jason. Thanks for watching.